Hey, welcome to Force Geeks. This is our our initial inaugural podcast. I'm Nate Custer, and I'm joined by my longtime friend, my brother from another mother. We'll just go ahead and call it that way, as some folks in the Force community like to talk about it. Brothers in the Force, I like that as well. But Jake Scott joining me, and Jake,
What's up?
we've been
Yes,
friends
man.
since we were like teenagers, like middle school, and now
Yeah, sixth grade, right? So like
eighth grade.
1987, 88.
It was 89,
Oh,
89.
okay, gotcha.
Yep. So we met up in Seattle.
It's
I'd
been a
moved
while.
there. Yep, from Oklahoma at that point, and we met up. We were in eighth grade at the time, and anyway, we had an initial kinship, and it's over nerd stuff. So we like to geek out, and I'm really, really excited about getting a chance to start a podcast and talk about Star Wars. You have to excuse me. I'm kind of getting over a cold at this point. I have small children. You have teenage children, and
Oh yeah.
how old's Ben at this point?
What's that?
How old's Ben now?
Oh, he is just turned 8 in October,
Yeah. So kids,
and he's at a friend's house. So
kids bring in all sorts of diseases, as I like to say. Petri dishes of
Yes.
disease is what I like to joke around. Love my children,
Yes.
but they get me sick quite often. So,
Oh yeah.
well, let's get into this because everybody, they don't really care about us, what we're doing. They want to talk about or listen to what is going on in the world of Star Wars at this point. And so, Jake, this is
Yes.
the cool thing that I am really stoked about. We finally have some Star Wars news to talk about.
Yes.
So, episodes 1 and 2, Disney Plus launched this last week. I completely geeked out and was ready
Oh, yeah.
for this when it happened, had my subscription ready to go. And immediately, the first opportunity I got that day when it came out on Tuesday was stream episode 1 of The Mandalorian. I want to get to it right now with you. What were your thoughts when you finally got to see the opening sequence of The Mandalorian?
Oh, just phenomenally good. I think that we're kind of back to the old days of what I think George Lucas's whole vision for the Star Wars universe was to begin with, as a sort of space western kind of, opera thing. And I think that, they've managed to capture that pretty well with the episodes I've seen so far anyway. I've been very impressed with the cinematography and the writing and just everything that they've done, and not like over engineering it. It's simple. There's not a lot of talking. The Mandalorian doesn't speak a lot, which is good.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's not a lot of dialogue. I mean,
Yep.
like, not a lot of dialogue. So, I'm thinking to myself, like, so of course they were able to crank this out. I mean, let's put the special effects aside.
Yep.
It did not take much to write this show. There's
No.
not a lot of dialogue. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm kind of like, I want some more Star Wars world building going on, and I'm not
Sure.
learning a lot. And of course, the Mandalorian, he's faceless, he's covered up by the helmet. I
Yep.
get the whole like mystery thing that's going on. We don't know who he is. We can all have ideas about what we think, but man, I'm ready for some dialogue. I want some like explanations coming my way. I'm
It's
a
coming,
little
dude.
disappointed I'm not learning more, and they're really just holding that carrot out in front of us right now.
Yeah.
I like the story. I've seen a lot of great stuff going on with it. I mean, and honestly, Mandalorian, he's badass. We knew he was
Yes.
going to be badass, but at this point, I want a little more Pedro Pascal talking and sharing some stuff. At
Yep.
least episode 2, I think we got a little bit more talking going on.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that? I mean, as far as like, were you hoping we'd be learning more in the first 2 episodes?
Well, so for me, and I know you know this, but obviously for the audience's sake, I would say my knowledge base of the EU in terms of, the stuff that's not canon anymore.
Oh, you're
and
strong in the Force with the EU. I know
I'm
that.
definitely strong with the EU, having read most of the material that's out there and having the kind of memory that I do for stuff that's completely useless in normal life, like Star Wars. It just all sticks. And so this all is kind of going along with what I know of The Mandalorian from the New Jedi Order series of books, and when they really do a deep dive into having Jaina Solo go live on Mandalore for a while to train with Boba Fett and his buddies to learn how to kill her brother. And really get into the culture of the Mandalorians, this all kind of makes sense. They're the strong, silent type. They're not into talking for the sake of filling the air with their speech. If they don't have something important to say, they're not going to say it. And so I think that as we get more and more characters introduced to the story, obviously he's going to have to talk more. And I think, we're going to get a few more people coming in that are going to fill out the cast. And I think that it's going to open up that dialogue a lot more than we've seen so far. And I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be awesome. But I don't think that he's going to be a big talker throughout the whole series. I think
No.
a lot of the other people are going to have to carry the script
Yeah.
around.
Strong, silent type for sure. And just as we get into this, guys, as we're talking about this, just know this is gonna be spoilerific. We're totally getting this. We want to break it down, tear it apart piece by piece, and talk about all the small things that are going on. Because if you geek as hard as we do, this is exactly what you're looking for. We are the podcast you're looking for at this point, because this is where we're going to go to do the deep dives as well. And so moving beyond the dialogue, now when I'm watching, I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? Like, clearly we know that this is kind of like, it's got a Western vibe to it. The Lone Gunslinger, Jon Favreau, the creator of the show, talked about that when he was breaking things down, when the first announcements came down about what the Mandalorian was going to be about. We're seeing that. So it's got this very, like, kind of, I don't know, Clint Eastwood vibe. Like, even the music seems like spaghetti Western style to me, which is kind of cool, but at the same time, I don't feel like it feels Star Warsy enough with the music.
You don't think so?
No.
I know you asked me about that.
It almost feels a little hokey to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I hear the music, I can appreciate that Western vibe. And then throws in some, like, I don't know, like 60s sounding sci-fi music, and I just like, it takes me out of it.
Are they gonna bust out with the Cantina band full of Biff musicians? And you know.
I'm digging it, but the music, I'll be honest, not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea on this one. But I'm interested to see where we're going with this, and that's my next thought is like, where are we going with this? I'm picking up that clearly the Mando, he's actually got some scruples. Because he didn't want to kill the baby, and let's get into the baby reveal. When the ears popped out of the little floating bassinet Star Wars high-tech style baby carriage.
Yep.
When the ears poke out, that was the big reveal of episode 1. That was like the oh wow.
Oh yeah. The third Yoda type species that we've seen overall.
Yaddle was a Jedi.
Yeah, so we have Yoda, Yaddle, and this baby. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. And I'm really hoping
baby? 50 years old. Even Yoda was 900 something years old, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So 900 years. The thing is still a baby after 50 years.
Yep.
I get the whole thing where it's, the species lives long, but after 50 years, wouldn't development be a little further along? I would think be a little further along than like baby talk at this point. But
yeah. Well, maybe he just doesn't choose to speak yet. Maybe he does have stuff to say. Maybe his species is mostly force telepathic or something amongst themselves, and they don't need to develop, verbal.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll see as the show plays out. We only get 8 episodes, by the way. 8 episodes, and can we just talk about how short these shows are?
They do seem very short.
There's not a lot of dialogue, so it must come down. I know the budget for this thing, it's like basically breaks down 8 episodes to about $12.5 million. Spent $100 million on season 1. So that's about 12.5, I think is what they broke it down to, about $12.5 million per episode.
Man.
I want more runtime.
Where's
I want
it all
more
going?
story. It's got to be special effects, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be special. I mean, because if you look at the sets and everything, they're doing a lot of physical sets.
Yes.
They're not working in the world where George was like, digital, it's the savior.
Green screen everything.
I have come around to the prequels. I was disappointed initially with at least the Phantom Menace, but I came around. I really loved Attack of the Clones. And that's the one that most people don't like the most. Yeah. Attack of the Clones. Because, who can get past the, sand its course and, that horrible. Yeah.
Well, let's not trash on Hayden too much. I
like Hayden.
So much grief.
I actually like Hayden, and he's a great actor, and he's been on a lot of other good stuff. I'm not including Jumper in that, but he was in a really great movie called Life as a House. And he was really good in that. I want Hayden Christensen to be redeemed and have some actually good direction. Nothing against George. Nothing against George. George is the master, and we'll always love and respect George. But he was concerned with moving things forward about the technology and the medium of storytelling.
I think
he was not so into the directing of the acting.
Yeah, I think his script kind of let Hayden down.
It totally did. And he wasn't getting good direction on how to portray those scenes. He came across as really whiny, but Hayden Christensen is a very good and talented actor.
Yeah.
It just was not a good outing for him. But Revenge of the Sith redeemed him quite a bit. So
yeah, I wasn't as bothered by the prequels as a lot of people. I don't get triggered by seeing Jar Jar Binks appear on screen the way a lot of people do.
I don't
stuff
anymore.
Like that.
I don't anymore. I was an angry fanboy, totally hating on episode 1. And all the news has come out about Ahmad Best, who portrayed Jar Jar, and you feel bad about him because the guy talked about contemplating suicide because he was hated so much. And I don't hate him at all, and I just didn't like the character. It wasn't for me. But then, you know what? It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
George came out and said, GL came out and was like, this is for kids. You grown up men need to not worry about this because there'll be a fun story, but this is not for you anymore. Because it was all about the cereals that he grew up with as a kid. He loved going to the Flash Gordon cereals at the old movie theaters and stuff. So I had to get past that because I remember going to the movie theater as like a 2-year-old. It came out when I was a year and a half old. And I remember being 2 in a re-release of it, because they kept those things coming out over and over again. And I remember as a 2-year-old, it's one of my first memories. It was Star Wars. So I'm so connected to it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to let go of that.
Right there with you, buddy.
I don't hate Jar Jar anymore. I don't like Jar Jar, but I don't hate it.
Yeah.
So moving back into this after that tangent, I'm trying to figure this out. So clearly the episodes are short. They spend a lot of money on the special effects. Some of the effects are really amazing.
Yep.
Some are a little lackluster. There's a scene when he's riding with Ugnaughty, the Ugnaught that Nick Nolte portrays in this. I have spoken. That they're riding on their blurgs.
Yep.
They're big lizards. What
they're T-Rex piranhas.
What struck you when you watched that?
You know,
special effects wasn't that great on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that the way I watch shows, I don't tend to go into that critical mode until I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
The first couple of times
I'm hating right away on stuff I don't like.
Yeah, the first couple of times I just absorb. And unless it's egregious, I tend to just ignore stuff like that. Like the first couple of times I watch it, and I've seen each episode twice now, all the way through, paying attention and everything, and really was just trying to absorb the story and enjoying the visuals. I mean, I don't know. I like the blurgs. I think they look kind of like, they got their little T-Rex arms kicking around and their piranha faces, and they're kind of cool. I mean, there's all kinds of weird writing creatures in the Star Wars universe, so there's plenty of room for this particular one.
There was the scene where they're riding up together. He and the Ugnaught, or the Mando and the Ugnaught are riding up, and I just thought, the effects look a little hokey right there, but CGI, it's part of the field. It's going to be what it is. So I want to make sure that I'm not hating on it hardcore. Sure. I'm nitpicking at a few things. Overall, I couldn't be happier with the Mando. In all honesty, even with this stuff, nothing's going to be perfect. No one's going to be totally loving every aspect of it. And if there are, I'd love to meet that person that loves everything and thinks it's all perfect. I'm not one of those, but I was impressed with a lot of the special effects. I really dug the intro scene in episode 1 of introducing the Mando as he went out to collect his bounty.
Yes.
After that was awesome. And the special effects in the ship, the Razor Crest, all that stuff is cool. I enjoyed the storytelling. At least in the beginning, there was some dialogue with his bounty that he was picking up. Because after that, it gets real quiet. But special effects are good. They're spending a lot of money, which is unheard of. It's like Game of Thrones type of money they're spending on this series. 8 episodes. I just wish it was longer. I just want longer episodes, like 45, 50 minutes I was really hoping for. But maybe, with the initial investment of the sets and with the special effects and everything they were creating, maybe the money will be able to stretch further since that stuff is all set now. And maybe the next episodes will get a little longer. I'm hoping by the end. I mean, Game of Thrones did that, where the last episodes got even longer. So maybe that's what we see with the Mando.
Well, I mean, theoretically, right? They're not in the TV broadcast, constraints. They can make their episodes however long they want. There's no commercial breaks to worry about or network time or any of that crap. They can just, make them double the length at the end if they really feel like it, and nobody's going to be mad about it.
So was there something in this show that you were like, I need to see this to make it good? There's this one thing that I got to see to make it worthwhile. To make a Star Wars fan happy, what do you need?
I don't know that there was anything at the beginning that I went into it with that, but now that they've done this thing with the whole Baby Yoda, they better deliver on that. Like, they have made a point of keeping the species that Yoda is from and their origins very mysterious. Like,
George said he'd never reveal it.
Yeah,
he said he would never reveal it.
If they're going to bring it up, if they're going to bring it out and pull it out like this with a baby, they better deliver on that. They better have the payoff, or I'm going to be very annoyed. You know, I want to know that stuff.
You got to give it to us because we
Yes.
need that.
I don't think there's anybody more iconic than Yoda, except maybe Darth Vader. You know, like Yoda is so iconic, and I think that there's that huge draw. And like you said, he has such an interesting physical appearance with the ears and everything. And they've got to follow through on it. I want to find out at least a little bit more than we know now. And I have a hard time believing that they can bring the story to wherever they're going with it without giving us something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a reason why this thing had a huge bounty on its head, why they want it so bad. You know, I saw somebody mention online that they were thinking that maybe that this Yoda baby was a clone of something. I'm assuming they think it's a clone of Yoda, possibly.
The theories abound. There's so much thought.
I'm purposely avoiding a lot of them.
Well, that's smart. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm going through all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like constantly searching the news on this because I want to know. I don't want to get spoilers, but I do want to know what's going on. And so for me to make this feel like Star Wars, which I think the Disney era Star Wars has been a bit lacking, is that Star Wars-y vibe of aliens. I needed that to happen. And this show delivers more than any other. Yes. I thought Rogue One did a good job, and that was my favorite of all the new movies that have come out. Surprisingly, it was Rogue One. It was the one offshoot story, but it helped bring things together so well between episodes, 4 and 3. You know, it was kind of cool to see, like, it was basically episode 3.5 or whatever it was, Rogue One was. But I wanted to see more aliens and stuff that we knew from the old Star Wars days, because us OT guys, the original trilogy guys, we missed that. And that's something that's been kind of lacking in the new Disney era. So I thought that Jon Favreau and, of course, Dave Filoni, who we haven't even touched on yet, Dave Filoni, who's been, studied at the knee of the master George Lucas himself for the Clone Wars cartoon series, which, let's be honest, Clone Wars did not start off great. It was not a strong start for Clone Wars, but it got better and better and better. And some of the best story arcs in all of Star Wars came from Clone Wars.
Agreed.
Now wait until it's back. So Dave Filoni, who was the mastermind behind Clone Wars and was taking his notes from George that whole time, now getting into live action for the first time with Jon Favreau. This just sets up Filoni and his creative mind with the other cartoons he's come up with, which I loved Rebels. Thought it was great. Yep. I'm still watching Resistance, even though there's only 2 seasons of it and there will not be any more of it than that. Resistance is kind of hokey, corny. It's for kids. It's not for me. It's for kids. But there's some little elements that are kind of fun if you're a Star Wars nerd like us to get into. But Filoni being involved, I was very excited about that. And he directed that first episode. First live action episode. And it's the opening show of the Mandalorian series, which is basically the vehicle that Disney Plus needs to be successful for launch for. Like, let's face it. Most everyone got Disney Plus for the Mandalorian. There's a lot of people that don't like the Disney movies, but it was as successful as it was because the hype around the Mandalorian was so huge.
Agreed. Yes, absolutely. I would definitely echo what you were saying about the appearance of more alien species and getting back to that, first walk-in of the Mos Eisley Cantina in episode 4.
We saw Trandoshans.
Yeah.
We haven't seen those since the original, since Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we really only ever saw Bosk, and that was it. Yeah. And now we see that there's a whole planet of them out there, and they're all over the place. Yeah, and they're pretty scary. They're scary dudes.
Yeah, they're like lizard people.
Yeah, there's a lot about them in the EU as well that, short story-wise, that's pretty good about their, their god and their religion, and it's all about hunting and their hunter's creed and hunter's points to get into their heaven and all that stuff. It's all pretty interesting, but I was really glad to see, especially when they brought out the Ugnaught and really started to look into him, because so much of, what you see of the Ugnaughts is just they're these little tiny laborers that don't have brains and don't talk and don't do anything. They just make weird noises and wander around like Jawas. And, and speaking of Jawas, I mean, now we're seeing
Jawas
the society, that is involved in the Jawas. And we're seeing that Ugnaughts can be more than just brainless labor machines, that they're little people just like everything else in the world. And I think it humanizes and it makes the universe that much more relatable when even though they look weird, when you make the aliens be relatable like that, it's a huge draw to me anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of the Jawas, they're little bastards.
Yeah.
I had no idea. They were just basically, I mean, I knew that they picked up R2 and they were looking for scraps and stuff out there when we saw the original movie when they took R2-D2 and C-3PO. I didn't realize they weren't just scavenging. They straight up steal stuff.
Oh, yes.
And so when Razor Crest broke down and parted out like, you're in a bad neighborhood and you walk out and your car's up on, cement
Up on
blocks.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
I had no idea. And then they're like, yeah, we took your stuff. We'll sell it back to you. I mean, they're little bastards. They're mean.
Yeah.
So that
now
was
somebody's going to have
see.
to do a YouTube version of that scene in like the ghetto with the spaceship up on blocks and yeah.
Now, I got to admit, when I saw the Sandcrawler, I got really excited.
Yeah.
2-year-old me getting excited all over again. Little kid.
Yeah.
Being, oh, wow. And then what was great is that we saw the Sandcrawler before in the movies, but we get to know the how it works a little bit better because of the Mandalorian now. Because you see the Mandalorian in that like main control bridge area of the thing.
All
See,
squished
it's made
down.
for Jawas. It's made for Jawas.
Okay, I laughed out loud when I saw that because I'm
too.
6'6", so I get it. Like I'm always squished everywhere I go.
We would call you tall.
Yes,
Very
tall. And so I get that, like him like scrunching down on the bridge of this Jawa Sandcrawler and like all munched in there and banging his head all the time. That just made me laugh.
It was good. I also enjoyed. Let's face it, this is somewhat of a repackaging of Empire Strikes Back when it comes to visuals.
Sure.
Empire and then also New Hope, simply because, the throwbacks to the Jawas. And so I'm thinking they're on Tatooine. I don't know if that's the case. I never saw what planet they're on. They don't say. I'm kind of disappointed that we don't know what planets they're on because, it's a Star Wars, universe building. I want to know where they are. Maybe it's some other planet. Maybe Jawas are only attracted to sand planets. Because as we all know in the Star Wars world, there's almost never any other type of climate, just one climate for the whole planet, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Exactly.
But we suspend our disbelief of science for Star Wars.
Yes.
We have to do it.
I will admit I was a little disappointed that they didn't do like the Rogue One style thing where when they first introduce you to a place that they show where it is. They put the name right on the screen. I wish that they had done that.
And, some people took issue with that with Rogue One because they didn't do that in the original movies. But here's the thing. In the original movies, they tell us where we're going.
Yes.
We know because someone says where we are or what planet we're going to. So we know it. But in this, I have yet to figure out what planets they're on. Because they've been on multiple worlds now. I have no idea.
I think people are much more demanding consumers now of media than they used to be in the 70s. They expect more out of their entertainment. And so I think that sort of thing is sort of a given now that, if you're going to be somewhere that's not Earth, you need to tell me where it's at and it needs to be obvious kind of thing.
And here's the thing I was getting at with my repackaging of Empire and Hope. So I say repackaging because you saw the bounty hunters with Darth Vader in Empire, and that included Boba Fett, which in this case is the Mando, because, obviously Boba Fett used Mando armor. Yep. And so that look was there. And then you also had the Trandoshan Bosk. You had IG-88, which in this case is IG-11. It's a repackaging of all these things that we were familiar with from our childhood, revisited. These things are all back now, which I get Jon Favreau wanting to bring that back because that's OT stuff we love. I don't have a problem with it. Some people think it's a bit of a retread. I don't think it is. I think it is repurposing stuff that makes us feel good and reminisce about those things that we enjoyed. It's kind of cool to see, IG-11, which is basically IG-8, and Boba Fett, which is, really the Mando in this setup. It's cool. And it was neat to see them working together too. And then also, just the fact that the Mando has apparently a heart and could not kill a child was pretty cool to see IG-11 go down. I did enjoy Taika Waititi playing that role too. I hope there's more. I feel like IG-11 is not done. I feel like we're going to see him somewhere else.
Sure. Well, he's a droid. There could be
fixed.
A couple dozen of them out there.
Yeah.
Or he could be repaired. Somebody could repurpose him. Those those IG series assassin droids are not uncommon.
Right.
So.
I love the whole time that he was basically like, getting ready to blow himself up.
Yep.
That was nice bit of comical awareness of the moment. It was really fun to see him just getting ready to blow him up. Like, not yet.
It's amazing that there's any of them left with their, they're so eager to suicide themselves like that.
Yeah.
So
can we just get back to the point of like where we're going with this thing? Because to me, Star Wars is lightsabers. It just is.
Yep.
It's lightsabers. And thankfully we have a Force, sensitive, because initially I wasn't sure if the baby Yoda type species would be Force sensitive. I had a suspicion it probably would be, because that makes for a really great story.
Yep.
that he's going to protect this child because he's drawn. One, he doesn't want to kill a child because he was a foundling, as we learned when he went to the Mando blacksmith.
The armorer. Yep.
Yeah, and we saw the super battle droids in the flashback sequence that killed his parents.
Yep.
So a little throwback to the Clone Wars. And then we have, a whole feel of the original trilogy going on right now. But there's going to be something that ties us into, it's coming, that ties us into the First Order. They're in the outer regions, all this stuff that's going on. I feel like this show is going to perhaps explore an area that everyone has been clamoring for, is how in the hell did the First Order come to be?
Yeah, well, I think that, I can't remember the name they gave him, but the guy that gave him the bounty and gave him the
Werner Herzog.
There you go. Yeah.
Behind Das Boot.
Yeah. He obviously is a lover of the old empire and disappointed that it's, gone. And so I'm sure that we're going to play into that and see, where his place is in the getting into the First Order, either beginning it or being a part of it or whatever. And so I think we'll see that. And obviously they're going to be after Force sensitive people, just like every other bad guy in Star Wars always is. And so, I think that it's going to be the Mando defying things, hey, I'm not giving you this child because I don't want to know, I don't want to see what happens to it when you get a hold of it because it's not going to be good kind of thing. And so then he's going to be, First Order is going to be after him, I guess, is where I see it headed.
So let me ask you this then. As we're looking at the fact that Dave Filoni's involved and Jon Favreau, who played a Mandalorian in the Clone Wars, pre-Vizsla, wielded the Darksaber, if I recall.
Yep.
And do you think we're headed for some Filoni-verse type stuff going on? Seeing some ties of the Clone Wars coming in, and I am just really itching for Ahsoka Tano to come up somewhere.
Oh my gosh!
From the End of Rebels, she's running around somewhere. Yeah. We know that like after the Battle of Endor, she's somewhere out there looking for Ezra.
Yep.
From Rebels. So Dave Filoni created her. I feel like this is a character that, do we get her in this series, or is it something that eventually live action Ahsoka Tano? I don't think it'll ever come in the movies, but I do think it could come for Disney Plus. And is this a series that gets us there?
I'll bet you we see her, and she's one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars. She actually,
for sure,
they did her own book called Ahsoka, and it was really, really good. They did a really great job capturing the essence of who that person is. And I've always loved the look of the Togruta with their Montrail headtails and the blue and white stripe and everything, just very visually striking. And I would love to see that done in live action and, see her out there with her dual lightsabers just going to town on some anythings, really. I don't care what they are.
There's a lot of folks who are nerds like us, and famous actors that are nerds that have talked about wanting to play Ahsoka Tano.
Oh yeah.
It'd be interesting if Ashley Eckstein, who voiced Ahsoka in the series in both Rebels and Clone Wars, if she gets a chance to play live action Ahsoka, or Rosario Dawson has been an actress that has been openly campaigning to play Ahsoka Tano.
Really?
Very interesting. Yes. Google it, take a look, but she would love to play Ahsoka Tano. And that's a pretty big name that wants to do that.
That is a big name. I'm sure she could do a good job with it.
Yeah. I like Ashley Eckstein just because I got used to her voice.
Yes.
She's very active in the Star Wars community. She's really great. Yep. She has the Her Universe stuff that was great for drawing more women into this. And so it's not just something that's just for dudes. It's an open universe where all of us can be open about nerding out. And I love it. So I would like to see her get the chance. But at the same time, at least we know there are some big name actors out there that want to get into it and delve into it. I hope we get Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. And I'm also really excited about the prospect of learning more about the Mandalorians, because we've explored that, and Dave Filoni loves exploring the Mandalorians.
Yeah, well, they have such a rich whole culture and history. There's so much in the EU that isn't canon anymore, but I know it influences how these things are
dabble in it. They're going to dabble in the EU.
Yeah.
You know what's happening.
I really think that it would be awesome to go to Mandalore and look at their history and really see their tribal culture and just how tight-knit they are. I mean, it's really fascinating stuff out there, and I really, truly enjoyed every bit where they went into it with the EU and really showed what life was like. And even showing, Boba Fett as having a heart, and being a normal person, not just this faceless killer, but, being a human inside the armor kind of thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Boba Fett and Jango Fett, not actual Mandalorians.
Well, I think that you have to remember, though, that the Mandalorians will adopt anybody.
Yeah.
Like, because of their culture of battle and warfare and bounty hunting and fighting as mercenaries, they will take anybody into their family.
Mhm.
And being a Mandalorian is more about being accepted as such rather than being from Mandalore.
True, but the Clone Wars, some of the Mandalorians did not take too kindly to Jango Fett having gotten a hold of Mandalorian armor and did not respect him. So it's interesting, and George Lucas wanted to make that clear, and that's something that Dave Filoni's talked about before too. So it is very interesting that they did not see him as being accepted by the Mandalorians, but maybe there was a sect that did. So I don't know. I want to move on to something else because I want to make sure we hit up all the different things that are happening in Star Wars. I'm going to wrap up our talk on The Mandalorian with one exception. Let me go and say this. I love the show. I'm excited for more. I'm so glad that season 2 is already getting started. But at this point, let me point this out about Jake, about my friend here. He knows that I hated episode 8. Could not stand it, but tried to help me go through it, went through the whole stages of grief and anger with this, and has worked me through it. And I will say this, I am not a Rian Johnson hater at all. I have tremendous respect for him. It's one of the most beautifully shot Star Wars movies ever.
Yep.
I also think he's a tremendous storyteller. I just think that there's some areas that fell flat in episode 8, and I don't fully blame him. He took the setup from episode 7, and he had to figure out a way to make it all make sense. So I get that. The one thing he mishandled, I felt, was that whole trip to Canto Bight. That whole thing was lame, and I also don't like the fact that when you look at the storyline for Poe, the whole time no one wanted to tell him what was going on. A lot of problems could have been dealt with if they just clued him into what's going on, because clearly he's a leader amongst the entire resistance. So I didn't get that. But beyond that, again, those are techniques and vehicles to tell a story, and I get that, and I made peace with all that. But Jake was very good about walking me through the process and getting me through it. So I am very excited for a Rian Johnson trilogy. RJ, I believe in. I want him to be able to get his chance to take all new characters and build a whole new world for us to explore, and I think they're going to be really good. I had a problem with the handling of the legacy characters, but also I know that Disney is directing the deaths of the legacy characters.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting. And with that, I want to get into episode 9, some episode 9 news, because obviously this whole thing is hamstringed by the fact that you've already killed Han, you've already killed Luke now, and in the meantime, sadly, our beloved princess, Carrie Fisher, died in real life before we could do episode 9. And this is interesting because there's a story that's just coming out that JJ Abrams told Total Film Magazine episode 9 is going to tell the complete story that he always intended to with Leia. And they're using cut footage from episode 7 that he used, that he cut out, that he shot, that JJ had shot for episode 7. And then you've got this out there that they're saying that they're just going to use the old footage and weave it in and make the dialogue work around what had already been shot and what had already been said. But then there's this other thing. Carrie Fisher's brother, Todd Fisher, and they were very close. Todd is talking about, and he's got knowledge of what's going on because the family has to sign off on things when it comes to Carrie's likeness and all that. And it's coming out that he's saying that there will be new footage. And I'm wondering if that means digital, because he'd said that could be a possibility that they were open to digital. But we'd heard before that, no, we're not doing digital. So we might be seeing digital, Carrie, to help tell the story even more because, spoilers, she said, believed to be training Rey in this next movie. So how does that all play out? Now, when you hear that, I'm curious, do you think this is a good idea to try to weave everything around what you'd shot before, knowing full well the story not even developed yet, and forcing it in there? Does it seem too forced to you, or do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I don't think they have much of a choice. I mean, they've basically killed off everybody that knows how to use the Force other than Leia and Kylo. I mean, that's really their two options. They either have Leia or they have Kylo Ren. Who else is going to teach Rey? I mean, she can't learn it all on her own. So,
well, Luke could come back as a Force ghost. I mean, you could have Yoda, you could have old Ben, everybody. Obi-Wan to be back, all of them. Maybe Anakin could come back. Do you want Anakin Skywalker in this movie as a Force ghost?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think that, I don't know why. I just have this feeling, call it a force premonition, that it's coming. You know, I think that we're going to see him again.
Be mindful of the presence, okay, my friend?
Yes.
We'll see how other things go. I am very hopeful. I want to see Anakin Skywalker in this again. I want him to be the one that when we talk about Ben Solo being redeemed, the Ben-demption, as it's been dubbed by a lot of folks out there.
Redemption.
I hope it's Anakin that does it. I mean, let's be real. They're not going to let Kylo go down a villain the entire time.
No.
Because the Big Daddy's back. Palps, he's back. Palpatine is back in this one. We know he's back. I believe he's going to be in the flesh, the way it seems, because he doesn't seem distant in what we've seen from the trailers. So I don't think that Kylo is going to stay a bad guy the whole time. It'll be interesting to see how this all rolls out, because the guy has been a force. And really, when you talk about the acting that has been done by Adam Driver, I know we talk about emo Darth Vader, that sort of thing is joked about by a lot of folks, that he's the emo kid. But Adam Driver is amazing in these movies. We got a taste of it in episode 7. Episode 8, Rian Johnson did a masterful job of really showcasing the opportunities for Adam Driver in his acting. It's been phenomenal. I love it.
He did a great job. I have no complaints about him playing Kylo and how he's played the character so far, and you know how good and powerful his inner conflict has been done, and how, you know, as I said, powerful it's been coming out of him, showing, you know, just how conflicted he truly is. I mean,
he's always
you got to think about who his parents are. They're like the epitome of heroes, and he's like turned away from all of that. And that's not easy. I mean, in real life, or even especially in Star Wars, you know, and Star Wars is all about redemption. That's like the entire storyline is based around the idea of redemption, that, you know, nobody is beyond it. And I think that Kylo...
No one's ever really gone.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Kylo's really gone that far over, to be honest with you. I think that he has, you know, gone through less than other people have and still come back. So I think that he will be redeemed in the end. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I can feel it coming, and I think that that'll be a cool thing to see.
So you're on board for Ben-demption then?
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think it's a good thing.
I don't think it's poor storytelling or too much of a callback to Return of the Jedi when Vader turned. I'm cool with it. I want to see someone come back, and I think that, you know, Kylo Ren will probably die a hero in some fashion. I do think he's going to die. I don't think he's going to live on, because it's the end of the Skywalker saga, as they keep saying over and over again. So I don't think that he survives. But I do want to see him redeem himself, and hopefully he does something at the, you know, with the help of Luke and Yoda and Obi-Wan. I hope that Yoda's in this. I really do. I'd like to see that, just because I enjoyed so much seeing him in episode 8 that I hope it's happening in episode 9. But it's going to be quite the showdown. We know that originally George Lucas had said that he wanted to make it in Return of the Jedi that Luke was helped by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, and came back as Force Ghosts to battle against the Emperor at that point. He changed it in the end, but that has been something that, as you saw, you know, and we can do another episode about this another time, about how Force Ghosts throughout the entire series of movies get more and more and more powerful. They're not, if you notice in episode 8, Yoda's not see-through. He's physical, and he's interacting with physical things. So we'll get into that more in a future episode.
Absolutely.
Wrapping things up for episode 9 news, another thing that's coming out. Colin Trevorrow, who was unceremoniously fired from Star Wars, as many have been in the current Disney era of things. And nothing, I'm not knocking it. You know, they've got a plan. They're going for it. And if people don't work out in the fashion they want, it's their property. They can do what they want. They can do it however they want to go about doing it. Because as much as I might knock on the Disney era, I am so excited that we're actually getting new content. Love it. And I've loved everything that's come out. I really have, except for, you know, my problems I had with episode 8, which I'm still working through. I'm going to therapy over it. But at the same time, Colin Trevorrow, who was hired originally to write and direct with his partner, his writing partner, to direct the episode 9, he's getting writing credit now, even though JJ Abrams and Chris Terrio have taken over the project for writing the movie. And apparently George Lucas has also consulted some on this. So they're bringing George back. They're giving some credit to Colin Trevorrow. So it's really interesting to see that he's getting some credit for story by that whole, not the screenplay, but the story by. So they're incorporating some elements of Colin's movie. And I wonder what he's thinking when it comes to getting fired from the movie, but also understanding they're using part of his story.
Tough to say, really. I think that we'll find out in the end that a lot of people kind of get drugged back into the fold for this last episode.
Yeah.
You know, I think that Disney's going to be big on wrapping up loose ends, and I think that, you know, for better or for worse, they see a lot of the storylines as loose ends, and they're going to bring in whoever they can, whoever they have to make it work. You know, to wrap it all up and make everybody as happy as possible. And of course, there'll always be people that are annoyed with whatever anybody does in a movie. That's what I was going to say earlier. Is like, I can't imagine what it must be like trying to direct for one of these iconic franchises, because you know you can never make everybody happy, no matter what you do. There's always going to be people
bless
that
all
want
these
to
folks that
cut
are
your
doing
head
it.
off over it.
Yeah,
you know?
because I'm sitting here taking pot shots. I wouldn't want that kind of pressure.
No.
Bless them for doing it. Honestly, I say that because they're creating, and so much energy and effort goes into creating. And I know that a lot of these folks that are involved, it's like a child, rearing a child to them. They have a love for the project as well, a love-hate relationship even at times. So I respect the energy and the effort and the creativity. And even though it doesn't matter, you know, what I thought should be in terms of the story, I can appreciate what's going on, and I'm really not a hater. I love all this stuff, but I do nitpick at the things just because I'm a 40-something-year-old fanboy. I love these movies. I've got an original Chewbacca action figure sitting on my desk right now that I'm looking at. Nice. I collect Star Wars. I've got some of the new stuff up there, so I'm not hating on the new Disney era either, because I love what they've done. I've got a Sith Trooper sitting up above me right now. I've got a Mandalorian Black Series figure up there. So I mean, I'm totally on board. I collect. I'm loving it. I think it's great storytelling, but at the same time, man, I've got high hopes for something that's going to be probably never able to accomplish, but my expectations are sky high, and I've always got to try to temper those to bring it down so I can respect and appreciate what is there. It's not the Star Wars that I wish it was, but it's a Star Wars that is going on, and I can't wait to figure out how this is all going to lay down in the conclusion to the Skywalker saga.
Well, it's like you said, it's content, and that's really what we crave, you know.
We were really fiending for it for a long time.
Yeah. We might not like all of it. We might not like every little bit and every decision that's made, but in the end, it's entertaining and it's content and it's what we want. And so I'm glad that somebody's making it, you know?
For sure. And I'm so excited. It's finally here. I mean, I have been just jonesing for The Mandalorian ever since the announcement came out that it was happening. Really, really excited, because I thought for a while we're going to get that, you know, every year, maybe even twice a year Star Wars movies. And then you have Bob Iger at Disney saying like, well, we kind of botched Solo, so we're going to say less is more for Star Wars from now on. Star Wars is living on Disney Plus now. That's what's happening. It's going to live on Disney Plus for a while. That's where we're going to get our Star Wars fix for a while. And you know what? I'm kind of excited about that, just because you can do long form storytelling. It just stinks when the episodes are only 27 minutes long.
Oh, I know.
Get a lot of it, and we have to wait a whole nother week. But at least we are getting new Star Wars coming in, and the next one, it'll be interesting to see if the next Star Wars series that comes out, whether it's Obi-Wan or whether it's the Cassian Andor series. My money's on Obi-Wan, because they took the script that was going to be a movie, the one-off of the Star Wars stories that was going to be the Obi-Wan movie, and they've just converted it into a television series, which, hey, the work was pretty much already done. The groundwork had been laid.
Yeah.
So
might as well
that's
get the
what we'll
payoff
see first.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with that, for sure.
What happens with the movies? Who knows? I have no idea what's happening with that. So, wrapping things up, let's go to the final subject of our show today, and that is Jedi Fallen Order. EA Games, who's taken a ton of heat from fans about how bad things have been. So, finally, it seems like they've put out a really great story for a game. It's not just about loot crates. It's not about trying to get all the money. It's finally, I think there was pressure from Disney, hearing from the fans, like, you guys got to put something good together.
Yeah.
You have this license, and you've done very little with it. You've canceled games that people were excited about, and you're just making money. The fans will pay money, but only if you continue to deliver something that's worth paying for.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a huge gamer, and I'll be the first to tell you that there is no hate like the hate of gamers when it comes to content they don't like and companies that piss them off. I mean, you know, recent activities out of Overwatch and that entire world, you know, games rile people up in a way that, few other things do. And you're right.
They will smite you.
Yeah, EA has gotten a lot of heat
Rightly
even
so.
over games that had good stories, like Battlefront 2. I thought was a really good story, and Iden Versio, I thought they did a great job with her story. And, I'm sure I'll probably get flamed for that, but I actually really liked it. I thought that it really did a good job, and I liked the game. And so I'm super excited. I'm hoping to go get Fallen Order this week. I'm a huge gamer. I do a lot of gaming, and I'm really excited to see what they tell story-wise and just to, have another lightsaber in my hands, so to speak.
I'm not a huge gamer, but I do enjoy playing to some degree, mostly because I live in fear of spending money on games if my wife were to find out about it. Now, she's a lovely, lovely person. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I know that is not something she likes, the idea of me playing games when we have small children to take care of. So I get that. Yep. I'm playing by the rules right now.
Yep.
But eventually, I'm going to get my nerd on in the game world. It's going to happen at some point, especially
I'm going to keep harping on it. Yeah. I've been on it for a while now.
But I have cheated. I went onto YouTube and I've watched some of the cutscenes.
Yep.
Man, this game looks good. They really invest in the story. I watched about a half hour so far of cutscenes, and there's a lot of them, which means there's a lot of good storytelling going on. And I got to tell you, this new character, Cal Kestis, pretty interesting. His backstory is interesting and what he's learning along the way. I'm not going to spoil too much, but the Inquisitors that you encounter in this game are badass. Very cool design, very cool storytelling going on with that. And the Purge Stormtroopers. Have you seen this yet, Jake?
I have not seen Purge Stormtroopers yet.
They are really menacing looking, very cool, and I want an action figure. Apparently, you can only get them, I think, at GameStop at this point as part of the game. I think that's an exclusive. I could be wrong. Please don't flame me for that as well. But I know that they're out there, and I think it's some sort of exclusive going on.
Well, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah. You do the research for me and find out if I'm right or wrong on this. Little fact check live as we're going with this. So that's
well. It looks like they are going to have Fallen Order Black Series Purge Stormtroopers available in quite a few different places.
Oh, good. I'm wrong. I'm glad I'm wrong.
Yeah, those guys do look pretty awesome. Yeah. I do like that helmet design. I'm kind of big on helmets right now since I'm building mine.
Yeah. So a lot of folks talking, this could be game of the year. I'm hearing that from a lot of my online gaming friends, and they're talking about this, saying, this game is awesome. It has been the game we've been waiting for.
Yes.
So finally. So they're going to get your money.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Probably in the next day or two, I will be out there buying that game and getting it on the Xbox and putting in the hours, seeing what it's like, going through the story, wishing I had more time to put it up on my YouTube channel kind of thing, like usual.
I'm just going to keep watching the cutscenes because I'm not a great gamer. I've never been good at it. I enjoy playing, but I'm not any good at it. So this way I can see the cutscenes and see what's going on, follow the story. Because they are doing some world building with this. There's some new things, nuances that you're learning about the Jedi and about the Purge specifically. It's pretty good stuff. So I'm glad they're expanding. And I love it when there's good storytelling because we all loved KOTOR, loved Knights of the Old Republic.
Yep.
And it was so cool. That first game was so cool because of the world building they did. And that's why we all want to see a Knights of the Old Republic type of movie franchise going on too. Please give that to us, Kathleen.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why Star Wars The Old Republic was such a big deal and still is,
Yeah.
Because it gave people the ability to live in the Star Wars universe and see that it's basically infinite. I mean, any place that people want to create and write into the storyline, it's there for you to do. All you got to do is come up with it.
All right. We're going to wrap up the show on that note then. And one final thing, if I'm going to put you on the hot seat with this, Jake.
Okay.
I have talked about what bothers me the most about The Mandalorian. Having said I love the show, I can't wait for more, and I'm totally on board. And I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and Disney and the whole crew at Lucasfilm deserve huge pats on the back for the show because I'm so stoked. I'm on board. I love it. But if I'm nitpicking, which I tend to do because I'm that kind of guy, if I'm nitpicking, the thing that probably I don't like the most about the show, for me, is the music. What's the thing? And I know that you are a guy who likes to see the positive side of anything Star Wars.
Yep.
If I were to push you into this, what's the one thing that you don't like about The Mandalorian?
You know what? To be really honest, the only thing so far that bothered me was in episode 2, and this is just one tiny little piece of one tiny little scene, and that's probably the only thing I can come up with when I'm on the spot like that, was when he climbed up on top of the sandcrawler and got zapped and fell back off again. I just can't see somebody who makes a living the way he does, being the warrior he is, making that sort of tactical blunder.
Yeah.
To me. That seemed really stupid. I mean, what did he expect was going to happen when he got up there?
I'm with you.
tons of Jawas up there, and they're all
I'm
armed
convinced.
because they always are. So I don't know. I just think that, yeah, it's tough for me to take stuff like that. And I, like I said earlier, I do tend to just watch and absorb the first couple of times, but that is something that I called out when I first saw it. I was like, there's no way he would just crawl up there like that. I'm sure he's got to have something, some grenade or some other way that he could have approached that problem with more safety than just standing up there and getting stunned by 15 different Jawas at once and falling off.
He took a beating in that
Yes,
episode,
he
too. He took a beating. Was that a reek? The thing from
they called it a
Attack of the Clones?
mudhorn in the captions.
Ah, there you go. Okay. Well, it looks very close to a reek.
It did look like a reek from episodes 2. Yeah. Attack of the Clones in the arena. That was what Andrew had said, too, when he was watching it with me. Is that one of those things from the Coliseum?
That egg thing? That hairy egg thing was
hairy
something
egg.
else.
Yeah, everybody wants some hairy egg.
Oh, man. All right. Well, on that note, we'll make that the close of the show at this point. Yeah. And Jake, my buddy, my pal, we've been friends for decades. I'm so glad we're getting a chance to do this. If you are listening to this podcast, we sure do appreciate you being here. We're basically the folks that we're the 40-something-year-old guys, the middle-aged men who wear Star Wars shirts out in public and love talking about Star Wars. We are the Force Geeks. If you've been looking for Star Wars in all the Alderaan places, to put that out there, we are the show for you. There's a lot of great shows out there. Love the community, and you got a lot of podcasts out there to choose from this point, and there's a lot of really great ones. There's some that I listen to every week I'm into, but we would love to be joined with you in that journey. And on that note, we're going to close out the show. You'll see some things as we progress along the way, kind of taking the production value up to some degree, but we're just getting started, having a little fun. So, Jake, thank you for making time with me, my friend.
You betcha, brother. Good to talk to you.
Be with you. And on that note, that is the first episode of Force Geeks, and make sure you give us a positive review so that we can keep doing this and continue to grow this show. That's what we're after at this point. So please, if you get a positive review, we would appreciate that. In the meantime, that's it for the first episode of Force Geeks.